Moving abroad looks so dreamy on Instagram, right? But it's all fake. Trust me, it's not always the fairy tale you see on Instagram. And today I'm going to tell you the truth about moving abroad. I want to take you to exact day when I moved from India to London and share the raw and unfiltered truth of what those first few days and first few weeks were like. And in the end, I will also share what are the things you should think about or you should keep in mind if you're thinking of moving abroad or if you're deliberating whether you should move or not move. Let's get into the video. So I moved to London a couple of years ago. I think when the COVID lockdown were over and things were opening again. I had traveled a little bit. I had traveled to Europe for a few months. I've never been to UK, but I thought it would be similar to Europe. And also my entire perception of how life abroad is going to be was from these few months that I've stayed in Europe. I love the clean air, I love the greenery, I love the way of working, and people used to ask me, do you miss your family, your friend? And I was like, no, I don't miss anyone. I just love it here. I would love to move to Europe. I would love to stay here. Without realizing that traveling to a new country for a few months is a totally different ball game than staying there for a few years or staying there for many years. I would say that I was very naive at that point. So let's get into the day when we took our flight from India to London. We packed our bags, said goodbye, emotional goodbyes to our families. That was, I think, probably one of the most heart-wrenching moment for both you and your family when you're saying goodbye, because you know you might not be able to see each other for a couple of months. But anyways, we said our goodbyes. We were all set to fly, and the first problem was our luggage. We were carrying 4 bags and the total limit was 93 kgs. So together they were under 93 kgs, but one of the bag was smaller. It was 18 kgs. So we distributed the remaining 5 kgs in the rest of the 3 bags. So that means one bag was under limit, but the 3 bags were overweight. And I don't know why, because I've traveled in the past and I think it was fine when I traveled to Europe. I thought it'll be fine here as well. Though my husband and my family did warn me that, you know, you're doing this, it is quite risky. I think you should not. You should just stick to 23 kg limit. But I was so sure. I was like, no, I've done this before. It's okay. It's fine. You guys are just making big deal out of it. So I was like very confident that it's gonna be fine. Went to the counter and the lady was like, nope, each bag has a limit, you can't carry more than 20 kgs. And I kept arguing with her, but all of that was in vain. So right there at the airport, I started unpacking. This is something very unexpected that happens. You're not in the right frame of your mind. I didn't have much time to strategize what to take out, what to keep. I was just picking the thing at the top and, you know, handing it back to my family. And a lot of those things I really wanted to take with me to London, right? So it was already such a sad moment for me that I have to like leave these things behind. On the top of that, the lady at the counter was very dismissive. I mean, I'm a very sensitive person, so it really affected me. So yes, few tears were shed. So we landed in London quite late in the night. It took us some time to get the immigration done and collect our baggages. If I think about it, just imagine this, right? There are these two people who have never traveled to this country called UK, who don't have any family or friends or anyone that they know living in that country. So there's no one who's waiting there to receive them, to help them understand the ways of this country, to help them navigate this new strange land. They have to figure out everything on their own right there at that moment, learn new things as they go. So all the things were running in our head. We were a little bit overwhelmed, and then we had to get an Uber to reach our Airbnb. The Uber app didn't accept cash and I only had cash and Forex card. So I tried my Forex card, it got declined. I didn't know what was the issue. I had just no idea, and we were like thinking, how would we reach our Airbnb if we can't book an Uber? Like, it's a very small thing, but at that moment it was like such a big thing for us. We just didn't know what to do, and there was nobody that we could ask, take guidance from. Somehow it clicked me that I have an Indian credit card also. I can try that, maybe that will work. So I tried it and thankfully it worked. We booked our Uber, but now there was a bigger hurdle waiting for us, which is to find the Uber pickup place. Now I don't know about you guys, but for me it's always such a struggle. I don't know why, but I feel the airport people always make it very complicated for people to find the place from where the Uber is going to pick them up. So anyways, we went down to the lowest basement, realized that it was the wrong basement, so dragged all our 4 bags back to the ground floor, then went to some second or third floor, which was again a wrong floor, then asked someone and he said something which we partly understood because of his accent. Then we went to the next floor. We were still doubtful whether it was the right place or not, but thankfully that was the right place and our Uber came and it picked us up. Now inside the Uber, we're already worrying about the next problem, which is the address. So even in India, if you put an address from Airbnb or any other address, a lot of time you're not dropped right at the location, right? The location on the map might be few meters away from the exact location. A lot of time the maps are not correct. A lot of time the entrances are not correct, right? They might drop you at the back entrance and then you might have to walk to the front entrance. There are so many things that can go wrong when you're using a Google map on Uber. And we were like, it's pitch dark outside, we can't see anything, we don't know whether he's going at the right location or not, and there's not many cars around that we can see. If this person decides to rob us today, he can very easily do that. All those things are already going in my head. And when he finally reached a location, he was like, is this the right location? And we were like, we don't know. Yes, if that's what the map tell you, then probably it is. And we got down and we were already wondering that if we had to walk like few meters with these heavy bags, how are we gonna do that? Fortunately, it was just few meters ahead our Airbnb. It was basically a home. The lady had converted the upstairs into Airbnb and she was living downstairs, and there was no lift, so we had to drag these 23 kgs suitcases up the stairs. That was quite an interesting experience. So that's how our first day ended in London. It was quite adventurous, but it was going to get more challenging and tough from here on, which we had no idea about. So I will start by talking about the hardest thing that we had to manage when we moved to London. For me, it was food. We were living in West London and there was only one supermarket near us, which was Marks and Spencer. At that point, I had no idea that there are a number of supermarket, and Marks and Spencer is probably, it is a bit expensive than a lot of the other cheaper supermarket. I had no idea. I thought this is how the prices are in London. So when I went to the supermarket, first of all, everything was foreign to me. Almost all vegetables were foreign to me. I mean, even the tomatoes, there were so many different types of tomatoes, and the tomatoes that we get in India, I couldn't see that. And the tomatoes were so expensive. I mean, it was like you were getting 2 tomatoes for 200 rupees, or you were getting 3 tomatoes for 500 rupees if it was a different variety. Even the onions, you were getting white onions, not the red onions. So everything was so new and so overwhelming. The vegetables that I usually eat in India were not there. There were no rice, pulses. Only thing that we recognized was bread and eggs and milk. I remember the first night we ended up eating sandwich because we didn't know what to cook. Second night we ordered pizza. Very expensive, but we were like, okay, this is just for a few days. Next night, again, we didn't know what to cook. We deliberated for some time, but the vegetables that were there, we didn't know how to cook them. The vegetables that we know how to cook, they were not there. We were too scared to use pressure cooker because we didn't hear any whistles from the other houses. So we were scared to use our pressure cooker because we thought the noise that it will create might disturb other people and they might complain about us. Scared to cook any parathas because the fire alarm was just on the top of our kitchen and we were scared that it might get activated. So third night again we had bread and we spread some pesto and some tomato on it. Again next night we were in same dilemma, what to eat, what not to eat. We thought of ordering from outside, but everything was so expensive. We didn't want to do that. We end up eating frozen pizza. And on the fifth night I literally cried. I was eating warm home cooked meal in India every day, and I thought when I moved to London I'm gonna eat more healthier food. I'm gonna eat salad, I'm gonna eat this, that, and I'm gonna like become healthy and become fit. That was my vision. Like that was how I imagined my life here. And here I was eating frozen pizzas, bread every day, which I avoided in India. Like never ever in my life before I had frozen pizza. That was the lowest low for me. And I might be like coming from a place of privilege, but at that point that was what I was going through. It was just a shock to my system, because for me food is really important. Like if I don't get good food, or if I'm struggling to find food, it really triggers me emotionally. And I thought, like, how I'm going to survive here? Am I going to eat this bread every single day? Am I going to eat frozen food? Is this how my life is going to be here? Those kind of thoughts started coming in my head, and I had a breakdown. And that was the first time when I started questioning my decision of moving here. I thought, have I made the wrong decision? And also I forgot to share this, but I remember on third day we thought we'll go to McDonald's and try McDonald's breakfast menu. I thought we'll find something good to eat there, and also it won't be as expensive as the restaurants that were around us. So we started from our home. It took us 30 minutes. So we were quite hungry after walking 30 minutes. We entered in McD, and I remember scanning the menu, and there was not even one veg item. There was one chicken item, but rest of them was like red meat or things that we don't eat. When you travel to new places, you feel like, okay, even if you don't find anything to eat there or everything is expensive, at least in McD you'll find something affordable and one veg option or something to eat. That was not the case here. We still ordered something to eat because we were damn hungry and we didn't know where else to go. And I removed meat from my burger and had it without it. Both of the things that we ordered were not good at all. Hungry, we walked back 30 minutes to our Airbnb and had bread again. I'm just telling you that when I cried that night, it was basically all these experiences that had happened before that kind of hit me. I was like, I can't do this. Now, the second struggle when you move to any new country, and especially in London, is finding a home. So when we moved here, we had booked an Airbnb for 1 month, and we thought 1 month is like good enough time to find a new place. Every day we travel like 1 or 2 hours on public transport to go to different places, look different houses, and everything under a budget were too tiny, cramped, depressing. I knew London home were small, but they were like matchbox small. And on the top of that, the time was just flying by. We just had 1 week left in our this Airbnb, and we didn't have next place to go. You worry, right? Where would you stay after this? What if you don't find any place? What if you end up compromising, getting some place that you hate just because you don't have time? Finally, I think when we went the last week in that Airbnb, we found a place which we really like, but it was above our budget, and we had no option. We had to take that place because everything else was just not what we imagine our home is going to be. And for us, like, we know that we were going to stay at our home a lot, so we wanted something where we feel comfortable staying. On one side, I was happy that we finally found something that we liked, but on the other side, I was also worried that it's so over our budget. How are we going to manage in this new place? Because this is definitely much more than what I thought I'll be paying for the home, and then the grocery and everything was also so expensive. But the more pressing problem was that this house was available 4 weeks later, and we didn't have anywhere to go for those 4 weeks. And this was December. December is already one of the peak months in London because of the Christmas decoration and everything. So when we looked at Airbnb, all the Airbnb was sold out. Everything near us was extremely expensive, so we had few sleepless nights because of this. Finally we found something. We end up overpaying for it, but we didn't have any other option. The next thing that really impacted us was the weather. We moved to London in November in winters, which is probably the worst time to move to London because it gets dark almost around 3:30 to 4 p.m. and it remained dark till 8:30 or 9. So most of your time is in darkness. You feel like you live in darkness. And I'm someone who loves sun, who loves summers. By the way, before coming here, I had no idea that I love sun in summers. It's after coming here when I didn't see sun for like so many hours, I was like, oh, I love sun. I have to go back to the sun. So yeah, we felt like we were always in darkness. On the top of that, we hardly used to get any direct sun even when it was not dark or it was daytime. So that kind of impacted our mood a lot, and it became quite depressing. A lot of people take sunlight for granted in India, but it is so important for your mood stabilization. You also have vitamin D deficiency if you don't see enough sunlight, and vitamin D is responsible for, you know, stabilizing your mood. And we were not able to explore London a lot because it used to get dark so early. So that excitement of going to new city and exploring, which kind of balances out the anxiety and the challenges of moving new city, it was not there. So it was just the anxiety and challenges, and the excitement was at the lowest because we were not able to explore a lot of London. Also because we had to figure out so many things like get the house, think about the job and all those things. Next biggest shock to my system was the work culture here. So I remember on my first day at work, the HR pinged me at 7:30 a.m. When you're already experiencing so much change in every aspect of your life, even small thing can trigger panics. So for me, the fact that I just woke up at 7 a.m. and there's already somebody messaging me at 7:30 a.m. means that they expect me to start work at 7:30 a.m. when in India I used to start my work at 9 a.m. It shook my system. It created a panic that, oh my god, I have to up my game. I'm already behind because I'm waking up at 7 a.m. and they expect me to start at 7:30 a.m. And that means I have to start inculcating this habit of waking up early, because I was not doing that in India. I was working late, but I was starting at 9 or 9:30 and it was okay. The other thing was understanding the different accent. So in my first project, I'm talking to a client and I just can't understand a word he's saying because his accent was so strong. And how am I supposed to do a project and solve this person's problem if I can't understand what he's saying? I mean, that shook my confidence. I feel like the moment I moved to London, my confidence just started declining, and it kept on declining with each passing day. Other thing was like, I felt my personality was completely taken away from me. In India, I was very jolly person. I was a very happy-go-lucky, and I used to crack a lot of PJs, some good jokes. A lot of my colleagues were my friend. We used to laugh a lot, and people had a very good impression of me. Like, people used to consider me as one of the top performer. And here, when I moved, I couldn't crack a lot of jokes or PGs, or couldn't do much small talk because I didn't understand their culture that well, right? For me, like, I personally didn't follow the shows that they were following, the songs or the sports that they were following, because I came from a different culture, so I couldn't relate it too much. And my personality became that of a very introvert person who would just work, just stay in her bubble, which I was not. So already I was feeling that a part of me is lost because of this transition. Now the next thing that I want to talk about is not something new or unique. I still want to talk about it to tell you how important it is. Homesickness. I was someone who never felt homesick when she was living in India, though I was living away from my family. And I lived away from my family for many, many years. I was someone who wanted to move away from home and live independently and live this life where, you know, she can do whatever she wants, she can buy whatever she wants. So I was never a homesick person. And it's only after I moved to London, many kilometers away from my family, that I realized what homesickness is. When you move to a city where everything is so new to you, you don't celebrate same thing that they celebrate. They don't celebrate same thing that you celebrate. Everybody speaks in a different language. The food is very different. Everything is very different. You do start feeling homesick for India. You start feeling homesick for the smell, for those crowded places, for those food stalls, for those vendors who shouts in the day. Start missing those small things about your own country. The fact that you can't just take one flight and go to your home if you want really hits you, and that's make you homesick, because going back to home is now an expensive affair, and it's so much trouble because you have to like travel for 10 to 12 hours, and you miss all the important festivals, you miss all the important family events, and you're virtually there but you're physically not there. All these things really hit you, and you feel a kind of loneliness which probably you would never feel if you're living in India, even if you're living alone. Even when we moved to a new home, figuring out things like how to pay the electricity bill, how to call a plumber, how to do maintenance, all these things were so new and a little bit stressful, because you don't know what will happen if something goes wrong, because you don't have that support or network here, right, to help you when things go wrong. For example, if you get sick, you just have each other to take care of you. If both of you get sick, then you don't have a third person to take care of you, just have to manage somehow. So all those things can be a little bit challenging and a little bit difficult to manage when you're moving abroad. That first year, to be honest, was probably one of the most difficult years of our life. I remember so many times we had this conversation that should we move back to India. So many times we were just a click away from booking our tickets back to India. So many times we thought, is it even worth it? Living so far away from family, for what? Should we even do it? Like, what's the point? So many tears were shed in that first year. I literally felt like somebody has uprooted me, twisted me, and I felt like I was missing my foundation in that first year, because everything that I knew so far was different here. So basically, we had to learn everything from scratch. So now when somebody asks me that I'm planning to move to Europe, UK, or abroad, these are the few things I ask them to do to make sure that their transition is a little bit smoother than mine and they're more prepared for it. The first thing is, note down your reasons for moving abroad, because when you move here, the life is going to get so difficult in first few months that you would need to go back to those reasons to see that why exactly you move here. Why I'm saying this is, sometimes people have such rosy picture of living abroad that they move here without thinking a lot about it, without thinking the negative side of it. And when they hear, then they realize, oh, my life was much better in India, I should move back to India. And once they reach in India, they realize, no, actually London was better, I should move back to London. Moving back from London to India is still easy, but again, moving from India to London is very difficult. And those reasons will also help you when you struggle here and you'll feel like you made a wrong decision. When you look at those reasons, you will realize that, okay, maybe it's not a wrong decision, it's just a bit difficult right now. Next thing is, prepare for culture shock. So you have to understand that when you're moving to a new country, you're moving to a completely different land. The way you speak, the way people speak here, the language people speak here, the food that people eat here, the way people greet, jokes people create here, everything is going to be completely different from your hometown. And you have grown up in that country for 20 to 30 years probably. So when you move here, it's going to be a complete shock to your system. And it's better to be prepared for that. I think I was not 100% emotionally and mentally prepared for that. I still had that rosy picture of, oh, life would be how it is when I vacation in Europe. Be ready for that culture shock. Be ready to make changes in your life, because you'll have to, if you have to adapt to this new ways of living. The third thing is, if possible, move to a country or a city or a location where you already have a family and friend living. Believe me, if you have a family and friend who are there, your transition is going to be so much smoother than doing it alone. The next thing is, don't hesitate to reach out to people. I think a lot of time, even if we have family friends living there, but because we haven't talked to them for years and years, we feel like, why should we reach out to them? We'll manage it alone. No, you can't. Even if out of 10 people, one person decides to be helpful to you, it's gonna be so much easier for you. So do reach out to these people. For me, I remember that I didn't have any family and friends, but I did have a girl from my college staying here, and I didn't reach out to her because I thought, I don't know her and I never talked to her in my college, and I was like, what's the point? And few years later, when I talked to her, I realized that, oh my god, if I would have reached out to her initially, it would have made my life so much easier, because I would have someone to talk to and someone to share about my journey, and she could have guided me. But I didn't do that because of my hesitation, or because I felt a little bit out of my comfort zone doing that. The next thing is, try to find your college network there. A lot of colleges, especially IT, IIMs, even other colleges, they already have a network in different places. These networks usually have a WhatsApp group where you can ask your queries, or people can help you if you need an advice. And it is such a good thing if you don't have any family and friend in that location, because then you have so many people giving you guidance and helping you navigate this new unknown territory through their own experience. The other thing is, you cannot discount the homesickness. No matter how strong you are, no matter how independent you think you are, you will miss your family, you will miss your friends, you will miss that life back home. And you have to accept that it's gonna happen. And it's normal. Everyone goes through it. Even people who've prayed to move abroad and who have amazing life here and who have a lot of friends here, even they have this homesickness feeling once in a while. So mentally prepare yourself for missing your home, for missing your homeland. And I know I've spoken a lot about the challenges that I faced moving here. A lot of you might be thinking that why didn't you move back? Because I think now if I look at it, whenever there's a big growth coming in your life, it has to come through a big change. Then only you'll have a big transformation. I feel at that point, in those initial 1 or 2 years, universe were literally just uprooting us and transforming us. It was twisting us, changing our shape, questioning and testing our resilience, testing our patience, testing every strength in our body, to actually ask her, are you ready for the bigger things in life? Are you ready for the growth? If we look at ourselves today, we're a completely different person from the way we were a few years back when we moved here. I think today we're more resilient, we're more adaptable to any changes, we're more confident in a person, and we're more independent. It has also strengthened our bond because we have navigated these challenges together by being each other's partner, each other's best friends. So I would say that moving abroad will definitely rattle you. It will completely turn your life upside down, but at the same time, you'll also see a immense growth in you. You'll also see immense changes in you. But also I would say that this is not everyone's cup of tea. Many years back it was a very easy decision to move here for a better life, but I think now life in India is also improving, so it's not as easy decision as it was probably years ago. So if you're thinking of moving to abroad right now from India, you need to clearly think about pros and cons. But that's it for this video, guys. I hope this was helpful, and if it was, then do subscribe to my channel and like this video, and I'll see you in the next video.